Breaking news! I just got word that a villager physically banned a trespassing fox, only to realize the intruder was his secret mushroom delivery driver. Welcome everyone to Kokugo Taiwa. I am your host, MC. Today we are tackling Niimi Nankichi's classic Gongitsune. To set the mood, I actually drew a super heartwarming illustration of the story. Ta-da!
MCshi? The aura here is completely psychotic. Is this a psychopath's mindscape? This pure nightmare fuel perfectly predicts the toxic offline drama and massive system errors we are about to uncover.
Wait, excuse me? It is just a cute drawing. Why are you treating my precious art like it is a cursed glitch from a survival horror game?
The lore theorists will absolutely devour this unhinged world building. Your chaotic strokes perfectly capture the incoming communication lag and the inevitable spectacular offline server crash for our characters.
Oh right, that is definitely enough yapping. We are officially starting the episode right now before my self-esteem takes any more massive damage. All right, let us dive straight into the absolute timeline of today's story. Our main cast features Gon, a lonely little fox who loves pulling pranks, and Hyoju, a regular villager just trying to get by.
Purely from an esports perspective, this is a nightmare matchup. Gon is essentially a high-mobility troll character built for griefing, while Hyoju is your standard grounded fighter just trying to farm his daily quests in peace.
Well, Gon definitely took the griefing too far one autumn day. He sneakily released the fish and eel that Hyoju had caught in his net, only to realize days later that the eel was meant for Hyoju's sick mother.
Oh, that is a spectacular drop in karma ranking. Gon thought he was just doing some light taunting, but he actually inflicted a permanent, unrecoverable debuff on his opponent's faction. The community backlash of that kind of toxic gameplay is guaranteed to be severe.
Yeah, the guilt hit him really hard. To make up for it, Gon stole sardines from a passing vendor and threw them into Hyoju's house. But because he did not explain anything, Hyoju was falsely accused of stealing and got beaten up by the vendor.
That is exactly what happens when you try to transfer stolen loot without checking the server rules. Gon completely failed the basic tutorial of item trading, resulting in friendly fire and massive collateral damage to Hyoju's HP.
Exactly. It was a total disaster. So Gon switches tactics and starts secretly leaving wild chestnuts and expensive matsutake mushrooms at Hyoju's house every single day. But Hyoju's friend Kasuke convinces him that a mysterious god must be leaving these gifts, completely ignoring Gon's efforts.
Kappa! This is peak information asymmetry, my friend. Gon is doing an extreme daily grind to restore his reputation points, completely unaware that the server is crediting all his experience points to a random NPC deity. It is a total waste of bandwidth.
Okay, hold on. I need to step in here and drop some harsh reality. Let us talk about the sheer lack of common sense. Who leaves premium, ultra-expensive matsutake mushrooms on a dirty dirt floor in an era without refrigerators?
I mean, he is a wild animal. He doesn't exactly have a proper inventory management system or an understanding of market value.
That is no excuse for terrible economics. If you are going to give a gift, communicate properly. Leave a little bite mark on a leaf with your name. This entire secret delivery obsession is a massive security risk and a total failure of basic adulting.
GG, your ruthless domestic logic just shattered the entire emotional foundation of the text. But let's look at the final bracket. Gon, feeling completely unappreciated, decides to sneak directly into the house through the back door to deliver his items.
And that is the worst possible timing ever. Hyoju spots the fox sneaking inside, assumes he's there to cause more trouble, and immediately grabs his matchlock to deal with the intruder.
The absolute tension of the grand finals. Gon is walking right into melee range with zero defense, thinking it's a friendly lobby, but Hyoju has been camping the spawn point, fully charging his ultra-fast ranged attack for an instant server kick.
He pulls the trigger. Gon collapses, and as the blue smoke clears from the matchlock, Hyoju sees the fresh chestnuts on the floor and finally realizes the truth about his secret benefactor.
For a moment, even the noise stopped. It was just a cold, lonely reality of a connection made entirely too late. And thus, the matchmaking system completely crashed, resulting in Gon's permanent and spectacular forced logout from the server.
I am taking off the host hat for a second. Honestly, looking at how desperately they completely missed each other's signals, aren't we kind of doing the exact same thing online? We just throw our awkward feelings into the void and get mad when nobody understands our silent intentions. For a second, I actually feel really bad for him.
Wow, you just hit me with some heavy existential damage right there. Let us quickly transition to the back room before the audience starts reflecting on their own terrible texting habits.
Welcome back to the back room. Now that we have successfully survived the main server crash of the story, I absolutely need to know the behind-the-scenes drama. You mentioned earlier that there was a hidden agenda regarding the text we read?
I sure did. Let us examine the official developer patch notes for this world. Nankichi wrote this piece when he was merely 18 years old, basing it entirely on local village folklore. However, the textbook version everyone cries over is actually a heavily modded client. The original source code was tampered with by a high-ranking admin.
Wait, hold on a second. What do you mean by a modded client? Are you seriously telling me the classic literature we all studied in elementary school is not even the original version? Who on earth had the authority to alter a published work?
The editor of the literary magazine, a man named Miekichi Suzuki, applied a massive unofficial update. In the author's original draft, the blue smoke from the antique ranged weapon was described at the very end of the text. Suzuki intentionally moved that specific description to right before Hyoju speaks his final realization.
Okay, I am following you, but is simply moving one sentence about smoke really that big of a deal? It sounds like a basic grammar correction or formatting adjustment to improve the reading flow.
The lore theorists will absolutely lose their minds over this historical reality. By shifting that one sentence, the editor forcibly changed the reader's mental camera work. It forcibly zooms in directly on the defeated fox through the lingering smoke. That tiny edit artificially multiplied the emotional damage for generations of innocent students, maximizing the tragedy metrics to an absurd degree.
That is incredibly manipulative and honestly kind of brilliant from a marketing standpoint. But it feels like a total violation of the original creator's vision, just to farm more engagement and tears from the audience.
But the rabbit hole goes much deeper. Let us review the developer's personal chat logs. Nankichi was a very sickly young man with absolutely zero skill points invested in his romance tree. He had a severe habit of sending massive, intensely passionate letters to his crush entirely unprompted.
Are you entirely serious right now? So the beloved author of a national classic was basically spamming huge walls of text to someone who probably left him on read? That is just embarrassing.
He was practically a pioneer of toxic direct messaging. He possessed a potent mix of severe loneliness and a desperate desire to force his affection onto others. Therefore, the little fox is literally just Nankichi's in-game avatar, created to process his own agonizing thirst for social validation.
I am absolutely losing my mind over this pathetic behavior. If you want to date someone, do not just forcefully airdrop your heavy emotions and run away. Sending a 20-page physical text message without checking if the other person is comfortable is a massive communication failure.
The brutal reality check has arrived. He was essentially an early prototype of an obsessive fan throwing anonymous super chats, then getting internally furious when the streamer did not immediately read his username aloud.
It is the worst return on investment ever. You can't secretly dump your heavy emotional baggage on someone's property and expect a magical romance to blossom. It is completely arrogant, totally terrifying for the recipient, and highly inefficient for building any real human connection.
GG. The emotional core of the text has been completely dismantled. This entire masterpiece is just a dramatic retelling of a socially awkward teenager failing a basic charisma check and getting permanently restricted from the dating server.
Well, wait a minute. But honestly, looking at the author pouring his own painful awkwardness into this doomed little character, aren't we all a bit guilty of that? Maybe we all just project our own messy, desperate need to be loved onto our online profiles, secretly hoping someone out there finally understands us without us having to speak a single word.
Yeah, I suppose the global server is mostly just filled with lonely players silently waiting for a mutual friend request. Meow.